Welcome to Decades, hosted by Chris Rubio. Decades is a show made up of 5 generations of people brought together to discuss topics you wouldn't normally talk about with others. The goal of the show is to learn by having some good, possibly heated discussions, without losing the simple fact that it's okay to talk to different people with different opinions other than your own.
All right, welcome to episode 22 of Decades. My name is Chris Rubio. I'll be the host. This is going to be a great, brand new type of show. Wait till you see what we have in store for you. Let me bring out my handler, the lighter, the boom guy, the guy producer. We don't know really what he does, but let's give it up for Sub 60 Ed. What is up, Sub 60 Ed from Virginia?
Hello, Mr. Rubio in Lewiston, Idaho. How are you? This is going to be a great show.
I know.
That new intro was awesome. Got some surprises.
Very smooth. I felt like gargling with caramel while I listened to it.
I know, right? It just classy. Nice job.
All right. So let's get moving. Let me introduce the first of the panel members, representing our 60s. This is Jay the Judge Gaskell. He's an Idaho native, Seahawks fan, retired district court judge, Judge. He makes the best old fashion in the Northwest, allegedly. What's up, Judge?
Not much. Jay Almighty here to help you out.
Next up, also represented our 60s from the fantastic state of Florida, we've got Bill Geiser. He's an entrepreneur, a wearable tech guru, and one of the best swimmers we all know. What is up, Bill?
Greetings, Decade people.
Next up, we've got Alex Chris. He's from the 50s. He's in his 50s, not from the 50s. Originally from the Ukraine, grew up in the USSR, lives in Los Angeles, is a beer connoisseur, and heads up the Charlie Sheen fan club. What's up, Brew?
Greetings from the Century City of Los Angeles.
Welcome. Next up, we've got in our 20s, we've got Charles Wallace Jr. We call him Chalice. He's a 2-time wiffle ball champion, host of From Gridiron to Goalposts, and really into AI blondes in bikinis. What's up, Chalice?
What's up, guys? Good to see everybody.
And last but not least, you may have heard of Mary Curie, the first female Nobel Peace Prize winner, Elizabeth Blackwell, the first female doctor in the United States, or even Valentina Tereshkova, the first female in space. All of them have nothing on Madison Lang. She's our first female on Decades. She's going to represent our 20s. She's born and raised in Lewiston, Idaho. Spent the last 9 years as a bartender and nanny in New York City. That's quite the move. What is up, Madison?
Hello. It's an honor to be here as the first woman on Decades.
Yes. Fantastic. So we've got 3 good topics, but before we get to the topics, we're going to hit up some email questions. The first one is for Sub 60 Ed. Ed,
okay.
What does your family think about the whole Sub 60 Ed nickname?
Most of them like it. If I'm okay with it, my family's very kind of chill and nonchalant about it. Like I said before, I'm the privileged one at 4'2" as opposed to all the other guys that are 6 foot plus. So I don't know. So no, everybody likes it. Actually, my sister-in-law really liked it. She said, "Yeah, that makes appropriate, and it's all encompassing."
As it should be.
Yes. Right.
All right. Next one for Judge. Judge, 2-parter. Are you and Rubio really friends? And what is your famous old fashioned that Rubio always says you can make?
We're neighbors and acquaintances. Acquaintances because we're neighbors. And I can't divulge my old fashioned recipe.
Okay. We'll come back to it later then maybe. All right. So here we go. Our topic. The first one actually is a write-in topic from Holly in Idaho. I would love to hear the panel give their opinion on if they had to choose between keeping internet modern technology at fingertips or going back to the days when the world had to be at home or at work on a computer to access the internet. Which would they choose and why? Let's go to the most tech person we know, Bill Geiser. What is your thoughts? Keep it at your fingertips or go back to home?
That genie isn't going back into the bottle. We're not going backwards. We have these conversations around all disruptive technologies. I mean, whether it's cars, TV, air conditioning, at some point, some people will start to find faults, but by and large, they're tools that improve our lives. I'm for it. We're not going back.
Well, first of all, who's the idiot that doesn't want AC? Get rid of them.
Climate control. Climate control.
Oh, well, no. I'll climate control myself at about to 65 degrees in my house. Judge, let's go to the worst person with technology. What are your thoughts on this?
I'd go back in a minute. There's no way this is better. I want to go back to Walter Cronkite and just actually get in the news and not hearing a bunch of idiots on the internet and Twitter or tweet or X or whatever the hell it is. I think it's made everything worse. I would go back in a
And this is great tech news from the guy who puts Post-it notes on the back of his cell phone.
I can remember stuff.
Okay, let's go to the youngins. Chalice, what is your thoughts on this? Keep it at the fingertips or take it home?
Yeah, I mean, I've never known a world where it wasn't directly at my fingertips, so I'm always open to trying new things. I hear from a lot of older people that things were better, before we had the world at our fingertips, and I don't think the world's too great now, so I wouldn't be opposed to giving it a shot. I just would feel bad for all of you guys who wouldn't be able to see my beautiful face all the time.
My question at this point, do you think that, I was just actually talking to someone about this, that all this technology at such a rapid rate right at our fingertips has actually made people dumber or more lazy? I mean, I would almost think 1,000%. I mean, how many phone numbers do you remember right now in your head?
2.
I mean, I can still, this tells you a little bit about my size growing up. I can tell you like 4 pizza places that I grew up with. Okay. And that's probably not a good thing, but still. Madison, out of the gate, what do you think?
I'm similar. I don't know a world without technology really at my fingertips. I guess a little bit when I was younger. It definitely has its advantages, but as well as its disadvantages. I don't know if it's made the world dumber, but lazier for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And just sensory overload sometimes. There's a lot of information hitting me that I don't need to know, but I'm forced to read, sadly.
Okay. And Gru, what do you think?
Well, I agree with Bill. You cannot, basically put genie back into the bottle. And I remember the time when I was at school back in USSR times and and the Ukrainian times, and I had to go to the library actually with a pen and paper to do my work. It was no computers whatsoever, okay, even there. So I'm okay with how it is now. And if you don't want to hear some news or listen to some news, you just basically filter what you want to see or listen to, okay? That's my opinion.
Okay, so Bill, let me come back to you real quick. I know you can't put the genie back in the bottle, but like I've said before, what if you had a magic wand and you could go back to the 50s or 60s where there was one computer and it was the size of 7 Toyota Camrys and only NASA used it? Would you
the old mainframe? What you're
Yeah.
talking about is when IBM ruled the roost, and every big company that had a computer, not everyone did. They were all IBM, and you accessed them through, corporate displays sitting on your desk. And once you got home, you had no access to it. That sure sounds like a romantic life today, but I think we forget, and literally we just don't appreciate how many conveniences also come with these tools. And no, I'm firmly rooted in what we have today, and not turning around waving a wand or doing some Willy Wonka kind of thing.
And what we don't realize is when, ironically, Jim Gingrich is the one that told me this. When I first started doing all these podcasts, he goes, you need to make sure you turn all the Wi-Fi off on all your devices. And so he pulled up on his phone all my Wi-Fi devices, and there was like 20 in my home. And I didn't even realize it because TVs have Wi-Fi. Your phone obviously has Wi-Fi. Your computers have Wi-Fi. Your watch has Wi-Fi. And then there's some like picture frames that have Wi-Fi. And even your thermostat can have Wi-Fi. And it's just insane. Madison, I'll come back to you. Do you think there's ever a possibility that we can go back to that? Or is your generation just so locked and loaded?
No, I don't even think it's my generation. I just think that's the way it is now. You can't go back.
Okay, Chalice, go to you. If you have kids with one of these AI blondes, I don't know how that works. Is your kid getting an iPhone like at age 5, 10, 15? What's it work?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
You were thinking about the AI blondes, weren't you?
Yeah, you tripped me up here.
Always.
I'm saying when you have kids with an AI blonde,
Right.
what is the age of nowadays where your kid gets a cell phone? 5, 4, 6, 10, 15?
I think Me personally, I wouldn't want, or I mean, it's my choice, right? I wouldn't let my child have a phone until they're going to be at least in 6th, 7th grade. Like when they're going to start going out with their friends more, maybe to the mall, if we even have malls still by the time I have kids. I know they're not as popular nowadays, but when I was growing up, I had a very rudimentary phone just so I could make calls up until I got into, 8th grade, going into high school, when I started to branch out a little more. And I'm no worse for wear, depending upon who you ask.
Okay, so we'll go to the judge, and then we'll go to commercial sub 60 Ed. Judge, is there any one tech device that you actually do like?
Does Netflix count?
Netflix?
Yeah,
I guess that counts.
Sure.
that's about it. I could do without all the rest.
You just like to Netflix and chill and drink some wine.
Yeah, well, drink whatever.
All right, sub 60 Ed, take us to commercial.
You have been watching Decades, a show on the NGBN.TV network.
This is NGBN TV, a network for men and home to top experts, speakers, authors, and more.
I'm Chris Rubio of The Rubio Method.
I'm Charles Wallace of the Bear Essentials podcast.
This is Bud from the Sports or Gibberish podcast.
Streaming TV for men, created by men.
Hello, my name is Ian Hill, and I have the tremendous honor of being the CEO of NGBN.TV. We are so excited for you to join us on this journey, helping us build a television network for men in their 40s, 50s, and 60s.
I am NGBN.
I am NGBN.
I am NGBN.
I'm NGBN, and so are you.
Join our movement at NGBN.TV, coming January 2024.
Welcome back to Decades. Take it away, Rubio.
As I shall. All right, welcome back to episode 22. You're watching Decades on the NGBN.TV network. We've got Gru, Madison, the judge, Charles Wallace, and Bill Geiser. Holly in Idaho, we really appreciate that question. If you'd like to ask the panel a question, you can send it to Rubio at therubiomethod.com or NGBNTVEd@gmail.com. Next question comes up. Sanctuary cities, and Ed had that photo ready, have become overrun, but there, allegedly, is not a problem at the borders. So which is the truth? So let's pull up this little picture, Ed. So as you can see, that kind of just drips with hypocrisy / irony. So, Madison, you were the most closest to New York. You just moved out there, I think, 3 or 4 months ago, if I'm following along collecting. Not that I'm stalking you or anything. So what do you think? Is there a border problem or not? Because sanctuary cities, I mean, Eric Adams came on and said, we're a sanctuary city, bring them all. And now that they've been brought, it's like, code red. We were just kidding.
I cannot stand Eric Adams. Personally, I do not like him. I didn't think there was a problem. I don't know. Eric Adams has his own agenda and his own ideas on how the city should be ran. And I don't think there's a problem with it being a sanctuary city. It doesn't feel overran. I never had a problem personally. And I worked in a lot of industries, I don't know, where I guess you could say there's a lot of immigrant hires. I know that's a big topic of debate regarding immigrants, but nope.
Okay. Charles?
Yeah, so I don't live in New York or anything like that, but I do think it's very hypocritical to say, we're going to remain a sanctuary city. We want all these immigrants, and then to say that, well, now we're overrun with them. Everyone's going to have conflicting opinions depending upon their own personal experiences on if it is an issue or if it isn't an issue. But my main issue with it is I don't understand why we need to have sanctuary cities to begin with. We have enough problems with our own population, with, people who have been here their entire lives. I don't understand why we're so eager to open our borders to be sanctuaries for people from other countries.
Judge?
Well, I agree with Madison. I think there's a separate agenda there, and it may have to do with federal funding, things like that to help out. You can always declare a crisis to get extra money. I'm not there. I don't know if there's a problem or not. I know that they could probably send them out west where they could steal white people's jobs working in the orchards and in the fields, taking away our jobs that we want. We couldn't survive without the immigrants coming through the west to do the produce and the crop stuff. So I don't know about New York, but it's certainly not a problem out here.
But that's a pretty bold statement saying you couldn't survive. I mean, you can't really say that. You can't really know that.
Well, who's going to take those jobs?
I think there's plenty of people who would.
Robots.
Fair enough, people would work.
Yeah. There's all those white guys that are
Technology
pissed off because they're picking fruit when they could be doing it.
I don't think it has anything to do with white guys. I just think it has to do with it's a bold statement to just paint that with like take a broad stroke there and say that we couldn't survive without immigrant workers. How do you know that?
Oh, you could survive. You just wouldn't have any cherries or apples or produce or anything from California or Oregon or Idaho or Washington.
Brew, you got your hand up?
Well, there is also a distinction that people don't always talk about, the difference between legal immigration and illegal immigration, okay? And there's a big difference, me being a legal immigrant from Ukraine for almost 30 years now, I had to go through proper channels, go to an embassy in Moscow, stay in line, deal with Chechen mafia in Moscow, basically live in the country and stuff. And somebody who lives close to the border basically walks through it and says, hey, I'm here, give me stuff. Okay, I don't like that. And also, I mean, when you have kids in school, you see the schools are being overrun by too many people in hospitals, etc. Okay, it's not only in New York's problem; it's a problem of each and every big city in the States.
Bill Geiser, you got a very stern look on your face. What's your thoughts?
I think it's ironic and somewhat humorous when I hear New York, Chicago, other big cities other big sanctuary cities that once the costs of this hits their city, they go crazy. They start complaining about the migrant crisis. There was a article less than a week ago, I believe, about the Hyde Park neighborhood in Chicago, a wealthy, very liberal section of the city that clearly votes Democratic and has for the last 1,000 years. And they were screaming about sending these immigrants back to Venezuela. And it's because it's now impacting them. They could vote that way, but they voted that way with the supposition it would never come to their neighborhood. Somebody else was going to have to carry that water. Once they have to carry the water, reality sets in. So I think it all goes back to the border, and it goes back to the fact that we've ignored a border that is wide open, and the governor of Texas is doing us all a great favor by shipping those illegal immigrants to these sanctuary cities and letting those mayors like Adams and whoever the Johnson or Jackson, the guy in Chicago, make them feel a little bit of the pain. Let's spread the wealth.
Well, I think the biggest hypocrisy was when DeSantis sent up 50 to Martha's Vineyard, and they basically shut down Martha's Vineyard to get them out of there. And if you've ever seen those homes in Martha's Vineyard, they could put 50 in one house. So there was, within 48 hours, they had them bust and shipped out of there. But I think I wanted to go back, and Bill kind of hit on it. Excuse me. If the sanctuary cities are getting more and more illegal immigrants, the border has to be more open. I'm not good with hunting. I'm not good with math, like I've said before. But am I wrong here? There has to be that, right? Madison?
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay, that's fine.
They're not falling out of the sky. That's for
yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Either the border's open or it's not open. If it's not open, they can't have more illegals being shipped. Chalice, you got your finger up?
Yeah, they they have to be coming from somewhere. Like you said, they're not falling out of the sky. So the fact that there are more illegal immigrants popping up in these cities, they have to be coming from somewhere, and we clearly have a problem at the border if we're getting more and more illegal immigrants into the country.
Good call. Groove, let's wrap it up on you. We're going to go to commercial. Groove, wake up.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
Turn off the porn channel.
Okay.
CharlieSheen.com.
Yeah. Well, also another problem with open borders that I need to mention are illegal guns and illegal drugs. Okay, which basically makes the whole problem with open borders even worse than just people coming in. Okay.
Okay, I'd love to end there, but I can't because the judge is shaking his head, and I love when he does that. Judge?
Illegal drugs are not coming through with illegal immigrants. They're coming through in trucks and produce and via the ocean.
I was talking about open border. Okay.
They're not carrying illegal drugs. The illegal immigrants have no relationship to that. So that's a scare.
So there's no drug cartels coming through the South.
Yeah.
They're not using illegal immigrants to do that.
They're not. But then, is there any? But how come then? Impartial. How come you never see like the big boat come in with the illegal immigrants and guns?
You do. The U.S. Coast Guard has had a huge uptick in intercepting drugs coming through the ocean in just the last year. So you do see that. But it's not something that our new technology, our new internet, our new algorithms want to show people. They want to focus on this.
Or our news media wants to talk about.
Yeah.
Chalice, you were going to say something, then we can go to commercial.
Well, I was just going to say, I don't think we can sit here and make that statement. I mean, we're not at the border. How do we know? How do you know what's coming through the border? Are you there?
No, you
Are
can
you?
talk to
No,
the
I'm not.
border
That's what I'm saying. Is that I'm not
Talk
making a
to the
broad
border
statement
patrol.
saying that
They will
nothing's
tell
coming
you.
through the border.
It's not the drugs with the illegal immigrants. It's trucks.
Did they tell you that?
The organized crime. Yes, they do. All you have to do is
They told you
talk
that.
to them.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you can't just say that they're not bringing certain things in.
I can't, but the Border Patrol can.
Okay. Sub 6 takes commercial.
You have been watching Decades, a show on the NGBN.TV network. Welcome back to Decades. Take it away, Rubio.
As I shall. Welcome back to episode 22 of Decades. Remember, if you have any questions, you can email rubio@therubiomethod.com or ngbntved@gmail.com. Our last question or topic. School choice allows public education funds to follow students to the schools or services that best fit their needs, whether that's to a public school, private school, charter school, homeschool, or any other learning environment families choose. Good or bad, Bill Geiser?
I am 1,000,000% in favor of school choice, particularly in those communities where public education has failed the community and has consistently failed the community. I'll take one example. My favorite city in the world, Chicago, which has been absolutely ruined. But just here are two facts that are startling to me. This came out this month. Not a single student, not one, can do math at grade level in 53 Chicago schools. Not one. And here's something else. 89 out of 100 Black students in Chicago are unable to read at grade level. That is an abject failure. And you know what the budget is per student in Chicago? Almost $30,000 per student. And we're getting shit for it. And those poor kids that are prisoners to a zip code, that's a problem with public education. If you live in the wrong place, you are shackled to the shittiest school the world's ever seen. we should change that. We should help those kids build a better life and escape that. And the best way to do it is to give them a great education. And they're not getting it from the public education system in the United States. And you know what's a good thing about this? Competition is a wonderful thing. It makes everyone better. So if all these public school systems and unions start bitching, my retort to them is teach harder. Do a better job. Stop bitching, stop complaining, start teaching kids, which is your primary job. And they've objected. So I can't express how much I'm in favor of it. I hope it happens everywhere tomorrow.
Okay, 2 questions on that. If they're spending $30,000 per kid, where the hell is that money going?
Yeah, great question.
So no one.
It's not going to the kids. Not going to the kids. Take a look at the growth of administrators.
Well, yeah,
it's going to the administrators. It's not going to the teachers. I agree.
So
no, the teachers are getting screwed. I am pro teacher. I don't want to come across as I'm against teachers. I am against teacher unions. They are the most corrupt. They're like the mafia. You know how much money they spend on political influence and donations? It's unbelievable. And it's well over 90% in the pockets of Democratic leaders. It is a money laundering operation that does not benefit the kids of this country. We should kill it tomorrow.
Okay, so then my first question. So the first question, no one figured out where the hell is the money going. It's not going to the kids. It's not going to the teachers. Maybe they got great lunches. I don't know. The second question is when. Okay, so we're in the middle of pensions for we're in the middle of Southside Chicago, and just say it's a bad school. You're opening it up to school choice. How does that kid end up going to Downers Grove South, a better suburb town? How does he get there? Is this a public bus or what?
That money, that tuition, or that money that would now follow a student as opposed to a school covers that. Covers their cost of transportation.
So the parent gets 30 G's. Like, how does that work?
They get a voucher. Think of it as a voucher. They don't get cash. They get a voucher that they can spend with a school.
Okay. Madison, what are your thoughts? You're the closest to a teacher. You were a nanny. That's basically teaching.
My boyfriend was a teacher.
There you go.
While I completely agree that it would be super beneficial to kids, especially from more upsetting circumstances, I guess. I don't know. I think being a teacher is extremely difficult and something that you don't know unless you've done it firsthand, especially now and especially after the pandemic. Teachers need resources as well as kids to be a good teacher. You can say teach your ass off, but if you're not provided the resources and the adequate amount of pay to teach your ass off, why would you?
But on that note, Madison, don't you have to think that most people that go into teaching, you know what you're getting into? I mean, when I went out of college and I became a teacher and I made $32,000 a year and I was pumped because that's what you go in. You're not going in saying, I can't wait to sign my $1 million signing bonus. It's one of those things that you know you're screwed.
I agree with that somewhat, but it's so different now. Just the last 5 years, it's changed so much. Kids are different. Parents are so different. Administration is so different. You can't ask for anything. You can't enforce anything without being faced with some kind of backlash. It's hard. It's really hard. And so agree that the kids would so benefit from something like this, but teachers deserve some part of it as well, I think.
I agree 1,000%. Judge, you look, go Charles, we'll get you, then we'll get to the judge so we can wake up a little.
I think that it's a great idea in theory, but I touched on this a little bit last week. I think we're a little too far gone at this current time, and we kind of need to get control of society back before something like this could be beneficial, because I do think that in a lot of cases we need better teachers, but I also think that in a lot of these schools that we can't put all the blame on the teachers. You can lead a horse to water, but if it's not going to drink, I don't know what you want me to do. And I think that in a lot of these cases, that even if we could give these kids a voucher and a choice to go to a better school, we're going to run into more problems where I think we're going to see some of these better schools are going to start becoming worse schools, because I think that it starts at the home. I think in a lot of these bad schools, you have kids coming from bad family dynamics, and it doesn't matter where we put them, they're not there to learn. They're not there at all in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with all of you guys, which is very rare. Gru, what is your thoughts?
Okay, I think quality of school also depends how much parents want to be involved in their kids' education, interacting with teachers, doing various fundraising to pay for stuff that, let's say, government doesn't pay by default. Let's say in schools where I live in Westwood, West Los Angeles, we have better schools than some other intercity schools because parents are involved and they send kids to learn, at schools and not basically, teach classes and stuff. Also, it also depends on politicians, because some politicians are against school choice and school vouchers. Prime example, Barack Obama, who was against vouchers in DC, although his kids went to private schools. Basically,
I think that's pretty much every politician does that.
Well, yes, and also in LA, our LA Unified School District has a huge 8-story building in downtown, full of all kind of bureaucrats and administrators, and lots of money spent there and not given to schools and the teachers.
Judge, what's your thoughts on all this? Since you've been out of school for roughly 150 years.
We didn't even have schools. I kind of agree with Charles, which I'm really hesitant to say. I think it's a good idea, but I don't think the way it's implemented now is working. Vouchers are helping the upper class. They're helping the more wealthy people get where they want to be. It's leaving everybody else behind. I know in Idaho, with the voucher system, what we have here, you get out, you can spend 3 hours a day with your parents teaching you about the Bible. There's no checks or balances on what you learn or don't learn. And I think you've got to have that, or else it's just going to be a free for all, and it's going to be to the detriment of everyone rather than helping everyone if you don't have some sort of system that can judge whether or not these people on vouchers and in these charter schools are learning things they need to be learning to succeed in the world.
Well, you do have entrance exams and things like that. I would
say that's
how they do it in Chicago.
Late, I would say entrance exams too little, too late.
Well, but take a look at Chicago, where
I'm not in
89 out of 100 black kids can't read at a grade level. I mean, and so they've got what you're asking for, and that's clearly failing too.
I think in Idaho you probably have almost the same statistics for reading at the grade level, and we probably have 100 black people here.
I think I keep coming back to that movie. I think it was late 80s, early 90s, called Lean on Me. And I think it was with Morgan Freeman. Comes in, he's a principal, and he just basically cleans house. And it's like the worst city in the world, worst high school. I think it was like in Cleveland or something like that. And he ends up chaining the doors so people cannot leave. And he kicks out the biggest drug dealer. He gives everyone detention. I mean, at this point, I think the voucher idea is good, but it needs a lot of tweaking just because there's no way it can work. And I agree with Madison, where obviously teachers need a lot more money. If anyone's been a teacher, 8 years, okay, it can be a nightmare. And I've always said after this, the pandemic or whatever, and dealing with kids and parents of these nowadays, I'd be fired within an hour just because the way that I held myself to things that I say or don't say or just say anyway. And then I also agree with Chalice that it's just, there has to be, I think we're too far. I think it needs to be just blown up. Like the house has too much rock.
Chris, something's not adding up. I don't know if it's this way everywhere, but I know this for a fact. The pensions of teachers, retired teachers in the state of Illinois are unbelievably lucrative. I mean, there's not a small number of former athletic directors, for example, that are getting over $300,000 a year in annual pensions. There are other regular teachers getting well in excess of $150,000 to $200,000 a year. So this thing about they're not getting paid, something is not adding up here. Maybe it's just Illinois, but I don't think so.
Maybe they don't get paid until they end their career.
Those pensions
how many of them are willing to stick their chest out for 45 years to deal with animals with no help from parents, no help from the administrators? I mean, because I taught for 8 years, and after 8 years, I had a full head of hair before that, and I pulled it all out. Just kidding. All right, Sub 60 Ed, you can come back in. Who's the winner for tonight?
It's a hard one, but we have to give it to our newcomer. She stayed strong the whole show.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
So, and she hung with you, jackalopes. So I gotta give it to Madison. Madison,
well done.
Congratulations.
Cheers to Madison.
I didn't know this was a competition.
Well, I can see you watched so many episodes prior.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
Sorry.
Everything's a competition, Madison. Well, you guys keep talking to other people that you normally wouldn't talk to. Get left, right, up, down, small, big. Just someone that you normally wouldn't speak to. Huh?
Woman.
Well, yes, Jesus.
Yes.
Sure.
Woman, okay.
I'll talk to you with you.
Doesn't matter for Chalice, okay. Make sure you continue this conversation. Try to just talk to someone that you normally wouldn't talk to. Agree to disagree if you have to, but keep the conversation going. And make sure you keep checking us out on the NGBN.TV network. Ed, we're out of here.
Thanks for watching Decades on the NGBN.TV network. Be sure to spread the word, and don't forget to subscribe, like, or follow on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook.